Hello and welcome to What Women Want Today podcast, season 3, the Soul Sister series, where we will tackle tough topics straight from our heart to yours. I'm Terri Kellums, your host and coach for women who struggle to find meaning and fulfillment in midlife.
I am Amanda Keeper. I am your new regular contributor. I come straight from the Midwest, Rockford, Illinois. I'm a public speaking teacher and leadership development professor. I'm also a coach and clinical mental health counselor. I am so thrilled to be here, and let's get started.
Let's do it. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the What Women Want Today podcast. I'm your host, Terri Kellums.
Hi, I'm Amanda Keeper, and I'm co-hosting today.
Yay. I can't believe you're back so soon. This is crazy. Yeah. Great.
Well, I'm super excited today because one of the things that we talked about last time after we both went back and listened to it again is that we got to hear more of your voice, because usually you're the one interviewing people on your podcast. And so today we kind of decided that we're going to flip the script and do something super creative.
Yay.
And I'm super excited for your listeners, Terri, because I feel like you do such a phenomenal job interviewing people. But today, the goal is going to be all for your listeners to get to know more about you.
Oh, it's scary and exciting.
Oh, and I think it's scary, girlfriend.
Well, you know what? Before we get started, I want to address an elephant in the room. And that elephant is that Elizabeth is no longer with the podcast. Okay. It's just, I've been trying to transition things, and this is my first opportunity to make a formal announcement. Her business had slowed down during COVID, and then all of a sudden it took back off again. And she just didn't realize the amount of time commitment that it would take to be a part of the podcast. So I wish her nothing but the best. So that's out of the way. Amanda, I want to share something with you.
Yes.
So exciting. So exciting. So I've been doing some research on the podcast and ways to improve, and I came across a statistic that caught me off guard, and I was pretty excited about. The What Women Want Today podcast is ranked 5. No, wait a minute. Let me see. How's this go? Yes, 5% globally. It's in the top 5% globally of all podcasts, and there are 3 million something podcasts out there. I'll have to put the exact number in the show notes for today's episode, but 5% globally. However, with good news sometimes comes a little not so great news. There's also another score that's called listenability or something like that. And I got work to do there. So I'm going to ask the audience, if you're enjoying this podcast, if you've enjoyed episodes in the past, just do me the favor of sharing it with your friends. That's how people find podcasts. Share it on your social media if you come across an episode that you really love. I would just appreciate that so much. And the other thing that you can do to help the show is to go onto your favorite podcast platform and rate and review the show. So appreciate all that housekeeping out of the way. And Amanda, I know you are not at home. I can see you're in a hotel room. Where
Yes.
are you, my friend?
Well, right now I'm at the Quality Inn in Jacksonville, Illinois, and I am drinking Corbel champagne. We made a joke last week about how it's not a joke, it's reality, about how Terri and I grew up in a trailer park, and I'm channeling it because I've got some Corbel in the room right now, and I've got a plastic hotel cup.
There you go.
I have that vibe of old school, and it's perfect because some of the questions that I'm going to ask you today, Terri, are going to get really old school.
Oh, damn. I have really no idea what she's going to ask me, and I'm starting to sweat.
Yeah, she really doesn't. So I think we should get right into it, because you are going to be able to share so much about who you are and sort of where you come from and how your perspective was shaped. And so I'm going to ask you the questions, and I'm going to do this sort of in a funnel. So normally I would explain what we're doing and why, but this time we're going to have a little fun. And I'm just going to ask you questions, and then I'm going to tell you why at the end.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. All right. So Terri, here's your first question. So who did you admire when you were growing up? In other words, who would you like to pattern your life after? So you can think of them as heroes. They can be real or fictional.
Oh, you know what? I was a big book reader. I can't talk today.
That's okay.
I was a big book reader, and I loved Nancy Drew and Hardy Boy mystery books. So I think I wanted to be able to tell stories like that. I wanted to grow up someday and be able to tell stories that like put people in another world, like took them to a different place from where they were. Excuse me. So and then there was another woman, Judy Blume, I think, was a really big impression on me. Mary Higgins Clark. I think it would be all authors, because I didn't live in a home where, like movie stars were like put up on pedestals or athletes or anything like that. So I don't think I really had anybody like that to look up to. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the authors on that answer. I feel like I'm on a game show. I feel like I'm on a game show.
No, I love that. And, now that you say that that doesn't surprise me. So I want to ask you, how are you like these authors personally?
Wow. Oh gosh, this is crazy. I guess I love stories.
Yes, you do.
I love stories. I love to tell stories. When I was a trainer for the insurance company I worked for, I loved how you could take a story and have it explain a concept to someone without teaching it to them. It's almost like the story is the teacher and not you. You're not just standing up there, a talking head, but the story is letting it unfold for them. And it makes so much more sense, and it sticks with them longer, and I think even on the podcast, season 1 was heavy stories. Every time I would teach something or talk about some topic, there was always a story. So
Well,
yeah.
it's interesting that you say that, because we were trained in the John Maxwell method, and they have a very specific way of setting up a speech. And then I was also showing a video to my speech class a couple of days ago, and it confirmed what the Maxwell method taught us. And that is every TED Talk. If you look at the TEDx talks, 85% of the talk is story driven.
Wow. No, that's not surprising.
So you're exactly right. Stories make things sticky. They make things like you can remember them, you can apply them.
Absolutely.
So yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. So just like the authors, you also love story.
Me too.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, how are you different from them? How are you different from these authors?
Wow, that's a great question. How am I different? I guess the biggest difference that sticks out is that, they're using it to, well, no, I was going to say they're using it to make a living, and I'm not, but that's not true. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question. How am I different than them? Oh gosh. What if I don't know? Do I fail the game show if I don't know the answer to the question?
Not fail the game show, and maybe it will come to you later. I think I have some things I could add. I think right now, currently, you're using the spoken word as your vehicle for telling stories, and interviewing as they were the written word.
That's true. That's a good one. Thank you.
And you're welcome.
Phone a friend, right?
And I do wonder if, they were kind of coming up and becoming famous in this day and age, if they would have had their podcast as well. They probably would. Who knows? They might. I don't know. Okay. So I'm so excited about this question. This is where I was telling you, for the audience, we're going back old school. So Terri, when you were growing up, what magazines did you like to read?
You know what? I was a soap opera junkie. I was a soap opera junkie, and I would get, when you say growing up, like, I was a married woman at the age of 16. And so I still considered myself growing up at that point. So magazines, yeah, definitely it would have been like crazy. Like, what is the magazine at the checkout? It's still today, like Women's Day or something, where it had like recipes and stuff. And definitely the soap opera. I was like, yeah, I was a huge soap opera junkie. I had to read all the magazines.
Which soap opera did you watch? Were you General Hospital?
I was General Hospital.
Oh, me too. Sonny and Jason.
Oh yeah. Luke and Laura.
Yeah.
Although there's some controversy around Luke and Laura we could dive into someday.
I didn't even know that about you, so we haven't talked about that. So, okay. So I think I know, but what did you like about them? What did you like about the soap opera?
I mean, I always love a happy ending, and you're always like rooting for, you know what? Here's the crazy thing about it. Like, I would get angry at them. I would
Mhm.
just be like, tell the damn truth. Just tell the truth. And I would be like, this would all this
Uh-huh.
drama would be avoided if you would just be honest,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I loved the happy ending. I love a good love story.
Okay.
I love the relationships, the complexity of the characters and the relationships.
Mhm. Mhm. So it's safe to say you kind of like following their story.
Mm. I see a theme here.
I see a theme, yeah. Okay, so growing up, what TV show did you really enjoy?
Three's Company. I really loved Three's Company.
Okay.
Let's see what else. Gosh, you're really taking me back. That's one that stands out to me. Why can't I think of, oh, like still like in my, younger years, not a child or anything, but I loved Melrose Place,
Mhm. Mhm.
Dallas, Knots Landing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't have shows like that anymore, do we?
No, I
I
don't
feel
think
like,
so.
yeah, it's different. It's different. Okay, and then if you had to pick a favorite movie that you watched over and over and over again, what did you watch?
This is so embarrassing. So I loved the movie Rain Man. And like
Man, okay.
I had these like little jokes that we pulled out from Rain Man. Like, of course, I'm an excellent driver. That was like always what I would say. And then like I started going to church. I didn't go to church growing up, but I started going to church, and I met this group of women, and they wanted to do like a women's night or whatever. And they're like asking me my favorite movie. And I'm like, Rain Man, because I hadn't seen it in years. I'm like, Rain
Yeah.
Man. And so they're like, oh, let's rent Rain Man. So they rented Rain Man. Do you
So
remember? Do you remember
I,
the sex scene where he goes and sits on the bed when his brother and that chick are, having sex, and
yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
ee." I wanted to die. Like I wanted to die in front of all these church women. I thought, oh
Yes.
my gosh, they're
So
gonna
they
hate
didn't
me.
know what they were getting into.
They did not, and I led them down a path of sin.
All right. So when you're thinking about that movie and like what you enjoyed so much, was it like because it was naughty or what were you, was
Oh,
it funny? Was it the humor? Like,
it was the story unfolding again. It was all about like seeing like Jerry Maguire. Wasn't his name Jerry Maguire, the brother, or what was his? No, what was his name?
oh, that's a different movie.
That's a whole different. See, I'm not a big movie person, but
Okay.
whoever Tom Cruise's character was Dustin Hoffman's brother, right? And
Mhm.
he came into the movie as this hard ass, like I'm so annoyed I have to take care of my brother kind of thing. And by the end of it,
Mhm.
we all know like Dustin Hoffman won his heart. And
Yeah.
that's the happy ending. That's
Yeah.
the struggle, that's the human struggle, and overcoming, who we are to be what we need to be there for somebody else. And yeah, I love that part of it because I think that's so common to everyday life, right? Like you start out and you think one thing about a particular, I don't know, I can't even think of a great example, but let's say you have like a set mindset on something in particular, and then someone comes into your life and influences you in such a way that you have no choice but to change into someone else in order to be there for that person. Like yeah, it's
Yes.
not just about changing into someone else, but it's about adapting and about growth. And I think that's just such a great example of how we are as humans. Like
Mhm.
we're not always perfect, but when we get influenced by something that changes us, like we can become a great example of what we really need to be. I think that's what I liked about that story, and I mean, obviously Dustin Hoffman is just such a great actor. He made that character so believable, and I like learning new things. I like, I'd never been exposed to someone who I think he had autism, right? Wasn't that what he had? Was autism? I'd never been exposed to someone, or maybe he had Asperger's because he was really smart. Remember, he could like count, and they took him
We'll
to
have
the
to check it
casino.
out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I think just being exposed to different things, um, in that movie that I was not aware of as a very sheltered child. So
Yeah.
good
So
movie.
having exposure to something that you never thought you would understand, and then embracing it, going beyond adaptation, but like embracing it and falling in love with the difference, not even just tolerating it, but
Oh,
like falling in
absolutely.
love and
Yeah.
appreciating it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you like to do with your free time?
Well, this is a great question. It depends on an introverted day or an extroverted day.
Yep.
On an introverted day, I am totally happy being at home, snuggling
Mhm.
up on the couch with my dogs, reading a book,
Mhm.
watching HGTV, like surfing Pinterest for hours. On an
Mhm.
extroverted day, I love being outdoors. I love being out on the water in our boat or hiking. Like we have some beautiful mountains in Arizona, great hiking experiences in Arizona. So I love being outdoors, adventure. Like Brian and I started riding motorcycles about a year ago. And when
Mhm.
we were out, I think a week ago Sunday, and you feel so alive. Like the
Yeah.
sun is shining on you and the wind is blowing at your face and you just feel alive. And so that's such a juxtaposition of who I am. Like I am totally homebody and then totally want to go out and do something and have adventure and have a big life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well said. It was so funny last weekend when you sent me photos of the Harley bars. I was like, "Oh my gosh, we are seriously kindred spirits." In a former past life of mine, I was on the back of a Harley for 6 years, and they were some of the best times of my life. So much fun. So
It was
I
the first time I ever been to a biker event.
yeah,
Like
super fun.
it was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Okay, so do you have a favorite saying or motto?
Favorite saying or motto. Um,
And it could be something that you remember hearing growing up that kind of stuck with you.
I don't, you know what I just heard something the other day that has stuck with me. And sometimes when I hear things, like it takes them a while to roll around in my brain before I decide, what it means to me.
Mhm.
I, I think the one that it's you're I'm not who you think I am.
Mhm.
No, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who you think. I am who I think you think I am.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's
that's a hard one to
some
remember how to
meta
say correctly.
that is some meta communication right there, and that goes back to looking glass self, and I want you to say that one more time so people can understand it. So, I'm not who I think
I
I
think I
am.
am.
I'm
I'm not
not
who
right?
you think I am.
Huh?
I am who I think that you think I am.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
That is such a powerful statement, and it speaks to the fact that we internalize other people's perceptions of us,
Hmm.
and that our self-image is greatly and profoundly impacted by what other people feed into our brain about who we are, what we stand for, and then we reflect it back onto the world. We internalize, self-fulfill, and reflect it back.
Mm,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
super fascinating. I used
It's
that quote
fascinating.
earlier this week too, so we'll get back to that. Okay, so what were your favorite subjects in you had a baby at 15, right? Or 16?
I was
So
like a week shy of 16. Yeah.
a week shy of 16. So what were your favorite subjects in junior high?
Oh gosh, I was actually a really good student. I didn't fall into the stereotypical mold of a teenage pregnant girl.
Mhm.
I really excelled at school. I loved English. English was probably my favorite.
Mhm.
Um, anything that was creative, like, back in our day, and I don't think they do this in school anymore, but we could do home economics, we could do foods class. So anything that involved creativity, I loved. Um, I did not love history and I did not love math, but everything else I pretty much loved. I still don't love
Yeah,
history.
yeah, and that was the next question is which subjects did you hate and why?
It baffles my husband's mind that I don't love history. When we went to Italy and Greece. He
Mhm.
wanted to go to the Parthenon and the Colosseum, and I said, you know what? I'll just be the paparazzi. So you just tell me, when you want me to take a picture or something. Because honestly, to me, like it just looks like a bunch of falling down buildings, and I just don't appreciate. I don't appreciate the history of it because it doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on right now. I know they say history
Maybe
repeats
if you knew
itself.
the stories of the people that lived in those places.
There was one part when we actually did hire a guide when we were at the Colosseum in Rome, and he was telling us the stories and showed us like how much smaller the people were back then, and showed us like I don't even remember what the word is for it. The people need to watch this episode on YouTube because I talk so much with my hands. I'm trying to show you how small these people are. They were in these like tombs. And that part was interesting. So you're right. When they attached a story to it, I was much more interested. Well, when we were in the Parthenon in Athens, it didn't mean as much to me. Like for Brian to sit there on a spot where, like people had sat like, I don't know how many thousands of years ago, like he was so excited about that. And I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, just a different level of appreciation. I hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to kind of flip the script a little bit and go to something a little bit more difficult to think about. But I'm interested in hearing about 3 stories that happened to you between the ages of 3 and 6 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one that comes to mind is one that I sort of buried for quite a long time until I really started doing a lot of growth, and I really was kind of allowing a lot of these things to come to the surface. I had buried them so deep. I didn't really remember them until it was probably about 2019. So it's not been that long ago. But my mom and dad's divorce was pretty awful, and he had some mental issues, and he was on some kind of medication, and I think he was drinking alcohol while he was taking this medication, which he shouldn't have been. And I remember him coming to get, this was when we lived in the trailer park, and he came to get us. We lived way at the back of the trailer park in the 7th row, and he lived like in the 3rd row. He was kind of stalking my mom after the divorce. It was just awful. And he came and got us, me and my sister, who was 2 years older than me. So I was about, I want to say 3.5 or 4, somewhere around in there. And he put us in the back of her vehicle. Now, anybody like listening, and probably even maybe a little bit younger, because you're how much older am I than you? I'm 53, and how old are you? You're 45?
Almost 47.
47.
I'm 46. I'll be 47 May 30th. Yeah.
I think people like even maybe like 5 years younger than you are just like shuddering at the thought of putting a 3-year-old in the back of a stranger's car right now, right? But back then, I guess it didn't seem to phase anybody that was involved in this whole situation, because the neighbor was involved with it. Put me and my sister in the back of this vehicle. And it was dark, and we were scared, and we were like, what's going on? We had no idea what was going on. And all of a sudden, police cars are just racing down the main street of the trailer park. And if you could kind of imagine the main street, and then all of the lanes kind of ran parallel to the main street, right? Or horizontal to the main street. And we're seeing all these police cars just race after one after another. And we have no idea what's going on. Someone has left a 3 and 5-year-old child in the back of a vehicle, and we have no clue what's going on. We're there by ourselves. No adult is like, it's scary, right? And what had happened was he had lured my mom out of the house trailer with the excuse that he wanted to look at photos that she had, photos of us kids, and he wanted some of them. And then he took her at gunpoint. And my brother was kind of standing behind the tree, and he was throwing rocks at him, because my dad at this point was disoriented. He was on medication and under the influence of alcohol and not in his right mind whatsoever. And he was holding my mom at gunpoint, and he did take a shot and missed my mom, but hit a lady in another trailer and did serve jail time for that. So that's one very traumatic memory for me. The next,
hold on. I want to ask you for just 1 second. What do you remember feeling during that memory? Do you have a feeling attached to that memory?
Abandonment, like scared and being abandoned, and that I guess I have adult words for it now. Like my adult words are that I wasn't important. I was just, secondary to a bigger thing going on in the world. But as a child, I think abandoned, scared would be probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. All right. That was very vivid detail. What else comes up for you? Another early memory.
Yeah, after that incident, so he went to jail and he come back and he was still living in the same trailer park. And my mom was attending her brother's wedding. And so she needed him to babysit for me. I don't know where my sister was. My sister was actually in the wedding. She was the flower girl. And so she needed him to babysit for me. So she drops me off, and I don't know how long she was gone. I'm assuming most of the evening. And so he at some point made me go into the bedroom and go to sleep. And I woke up to hearing her crying. And I remember, like, this memory is so vivid for me. And I ran out there and he's sexually assaulting her. And she had on a dress that was a gray dress with little tiny purple flowers on it. And then in the middle of the dress, where it kind of came to a V, there was a solid purple strip of cloth. And it was the same purple as the color in the flowers. And he had ripped that. And she had, big black lines of mascara, eyeliner, whatever, running down her face. And, she's crying, please stop, please stop, please stop. And, and I ran out there and I said, don't hurt my mommy. Don't hurt my mommy.
Right.
So, yeah, that was, that's a very vivid memory, but the one that didn't come back to me until, I was, able to finally come to grips with the fact that I had not let myself be vulnerable for a really long time. And that was part of the work I needed to do in order to let people close to me. Because when you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from that is that you don't get to have the quality of relationships you really want to have, because you always have armor on. And if you read Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, like, she goes into vulnerability and explains it so well. And, she really like helped me understand that you wear this armor, and I used to call it building up walls. And you think you're so damn smart. Like, you think, well, I just built these walls and then nobody hurts me. I get to decide how far I'm going to let you, or how close I'm going to let you. And then I will just put up my wall. I know how to build them. I've become really great at it. I think I was probably, how old was I in 2019? Probably like 50 to 50. I think I was 50 in 2019. And, I've become really good at it. And what you finally realize when you start to allow yourself to be vulnerable, and this is not easy work. This takes a long time, and I still have times where I struggle with it, when I want to shut down, when I want to put up a wall, something's hurting, like it's such a built-in response that you can slide right back into it so easily. But I finally realized that you can't really let people close to you if you always have a wall up. Like, at some point, someone's going to have to see who you really are if you really want them to really love you for who you are. You can't love somebody if you don't really know them. You care about them to some extent, but I think, but you can't really love them. So
How are you feeling right now as you're telling this story?
I'm sweating.
Yeah.
I feel my heart rate is a little fast, and you know,
It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage.
yeah, I'm feeling,
Very personal.
yeah, I'm feeling a little naked, a
Yeah.
little naked.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're like practicing what you're trying to promote to your audience.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And like, as I'm listening to you, I'm kind of taking in, like, the deep breaths that you're taking in, and the tightness. Like, do you feel tightness in your chest a little
Yeah,
bit? Like,
yeah.
yeah. It's fascinating how our memories are stored in our bodies.
I learned that.
Right. And so even as you're telling that story, like, I see how it still has a place in your body, right? That's a stored memory, and it's a core memory. And when you think about that particular memory, and you think about what you needed in that moment, what did you need?
In the moment when that was
Yeah,
happening,
yeah,
I needed to feel safe, and I
yeah,
didn't.
exactly.
Hmm. And that would probably be what I needed in the back of that vehicle too, was to feel safe, and I didn't.
Right, right. All right. Is there a third one that pops out to you?
Yeah, it's a little sad, but I think, it was part of me coping with that
Mhm.
life, because after she got away from my crazy ass father, she married another man that was probably just as bad, if not worse. And I developed a imaginary friend. And I did talk about this on the podcast a little bit. My imaginary friend was Shaggy. And Shaggy came out after my mom. I had this beautiful long hair down to the middle of my back, just like these nice waves. I had beautiful, thick, just gorgeous hair. And
I
she
feel
got
like you
tired.
need to put that as your picture on this podcast episode. That'll be yours.
I wish I had it. I don't have stuff from back then.
That would be hilarious.
But yeah, that
Okay.
would be hilarious. But she cut my hair because she got tired of telling me brush your hair, and I wouldn't take care of it. But I was pretty young. I was probably like 6. And so she took me to the beauty shop and she had them cut my hair. My dogs are being so naughty today. Can you hear them?
No, not at all. I'm
Oh,
thinking about
good.
you, your haircut, and you didn't want it.
She cut my hair into this really ugly haircut back in the 70s called a shag haircut. And it was traumatic for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think, even to this day, like, I do pull my hair up in the front sometimes. And, I put that on social media and stuff, but I was telling my new hairstylist, like, don't take too much hair away from my face because it's it's a shield.
Yeah.
And I've always had so much hair that I feel like my husband is so intuitive about some of this stuff, like, because he'll remind me of how shy I was on our wedding day. We had you were there at my wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
I walked out the back door and somebody caught this very vulnerable moment for me where everybody was looking at me. And of course I was the bride. Everybody was supposed to be looking at me at that moment because I was walking out the door to
Yeah.
walk down the aisle. But that was tough for me to do that day. But the whole hair thing, back to the shaggy haircut. I think my imaginary friend kind of came out of the trauma that I could not hide anymore. I don't know what I thought I was hiding from with hair, but I always tried so hard to be invisible because you did not want to draw attention to yourself for this man, this abusive stepfather. And so I tried so hard to be invisible. And for some reason, getting my hair cut, I got like all sorts of attention all of a sudden. Like people would say, "Oh, your hair's so cute." And I was like, "Oh, you're lying." But Shaggy came, and Shaggy could say anything. Like I would walk into the room and I go, "Hi, I'm Shaggy. Terri wants you to know that she doesn't like XYZ."
Shaggy was like your avatar.
Oh my God, Shaggy was awesome.
Yeah.
Shaggy,
Shaggy
like,
like had all the traits that you wish you had.
for sure. Shaggy was a badass, and
Mm.
Shaggy could say whatever. And there was no repercussions for Shaggy because how can you punish an imaginary person? You know? So it was interesting. Shaggy was my advocate. He kind of came out when I needed him to say something I could not speak for myself. And I wish I could remember how long Shaggy stuck around. But at some point I shed Shaggy and I just learned to just be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Just be quiet, you
Mm-hmm.
know. You stay out of
Mm-hmm.
trouble that way.
Yeah. Wow. I have to take a deep breath. That was so much. That was
That's a
so,
lot.
that was so much and so sacred. Like when anybody shares really vulnerable stories like that with me, I feel so privileged to be the listener of those stories. Because it's the interaction that we're having that it's making it possible for you to go there and the relationship that you have built up with your podcast listeners over the last 3 years. I've seen so much growth in you. I know when we first met outside of the John Maxwell program, and we were like, the power's in your story.
Mm-hmm.
Like for you to tell stories like that, I think would have been like, oh, really, Amanda? Like that's not going to happen. Like I don't know if you would ever have considered back then telling some stories. Because that was sort of, one of my favorite quotes as I was coming up in the counseling field was that you're only as sick as your worst secret.
You've told me that quote before. It gives me chills.
Yeah. And it's like when you don't bury it anymore, and when you choose to share your story so that it can be a healing for yourself and other people, then that takes the power away from that, and you get to reclaim the power and repurpose the power of that story.
Oh, I like that. Repurpose it. I like that.
Yeah, you get to repurpose the story, and it's actually the basis of everything that we just went through. So the purpose of this actual line of questioning is actually called the Career Style Interview by Mark Savickas. And these questions are supposed to lead you to an ideal career for you.
Okay. So did I lead you there?
You perfectly led me there. And
I won the game show.
Yeah, you won the game show. Yeah. So the role models in the Career Style Interview, I'm going to share some of this right from the Savickas interview. The role models represent ego ideals or a central life goal and provide solutions to a central life problem. So it's, what did you admire? You admired their ability to tell a vivid story, and that vivid story helped you escape.
It did.
It helped you escape from what was going on in your real life.
Absolutely. 100%.
I remember you telling me that, didn't you say you used to like to go to the library?
I loved the library. I knew all the librarians. They loved me. I walked in there and the smells like of those books was like, someone smelling chocolate chip cookies. Like I was at home. I was at home there. I knew I was going to find comfort there. I felt safe there.
You just nailed it. So your role models are the people that take care of your wound. And your wound was lack of safety.
Yes.
So your role models are the salve for the wound that you have carried with you since childhood, according to Mark Savickas. Now, the magazines, they indicate your preferred environment that you would love to work in. So books reveal a major character who feels the same problem as you might feel, and shows how you might have wanted to deal with problems in your life.
Wow. So does that mean I wanted the drama, or I wanted it because I didn't like the drama? Go deeper. I'm catching on to that one.
I think it's really fascinating because as you were talking about how you really had to silence yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And in all of these different examples, you keep talking about people getting to the truth. Like in those soap operas, I just wanted people to get to the truth.
Yeah, just tell the truth. It makes life so much simpler.
And you had to survive and cope your environment by hiding.
Yeah.
You said I had to make myself invisible. So you're adaptive, you're maladaptive. Sorry, it's not a healthy coping mechanism. Your maladaptive strategy to survive, which has served you well, was to make yourself invisible. And to hide.
Amanda, there was an event that happened, and I was a grown-ass adult. I was in my 40s. There was an event that happened to me that was so hurtful. I like, now when I think about it, it seems so damn silly, but like I went into the closet. I went to the closet and sat and cried. This was like one of the most painful things that happened to me. You
wanted to make yourself invisible again.
I did.
That's what you did as a child. And that's what worked as a child.
Yeah. If someone doesn't see me being hurt, that means I'm not hurt. Right. That I can hide that. I can hide that hurt. And yeah, that was the last time I ever hid in a closet. I can definitely see the correlations to what you're saying.
Mhm.
It's very interesting.
Okay, now it's fascinating. Now we go to leisure. Your leisure deals with your self-expression and reveals what you really want to manifest in your life. So adventure, comfort. It's so funny. One of your personal goals for this year is to actually break out of your comfort zone just a little bit.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
your default is definitely comfort. But if you look at how often you felt unsafe, no wonder you want to feel comfort.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Of course you want to feel comfort because that
Wow.
feels good for your nervous system.
Yeah.
Your nervous system feels so at ease when you're on the couch with Brian snuggling with the dogs and you're in your safe,
Hmm.
cozy environment that you know what to expect.
Yeah.
And when you grow up in dysfunction like we did, you feel chaos and your nervous system feels chaos.
Hmm.
So when you do the work to reset your nervous system, that's a lot of work and you never want to go back there.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
right.
Not going
All
back in the
right.
closet.
So your favorite saying can be the title of your life story.
Mm. That's crazy. That's
So think about that.
crazy.
Uh,
Be the title
Most
of my life story. Yeah.
most people I know are living in the confines of other people's perception of them.
Yeah.
Self-image is the biggest work. When I work with clients, self-image is the biggest work that you'll ever do with people. Because if their core self doesn't see themselves in a powerful way that can manifest and has control over their outcomes, and they're repressed and suppressed. And I talked with two clients today. One said she felt like she's been pushed down in the water and that somebody's just like trying to drown her. And that as she has broken away from this unhealthy relationship, it's like she's emerging from the water and she's like, and she can finally gasp for that
Oh.
breath of air.
Oh.
And another client said in the same day this morning, I feel like the weight of my problems is like somebody pouring dirt over me in a grave that I'm already in alive.
Oh
And
my
I'm trying
God.
so hard to claw out of it. And I can see out of it. I still have hope.
Oh my gosh.
But here's the thing. The self-image keeps you in those manifestations of what your brain programs you to do. Right? So we have spent, for this client 35 years accepting that kind of behavior. For you, how long did it take for you to decide, like, I don't want to be invisible? And you know what? I don't want any other woman to feel invisible either. And I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to take off the blinders and I'm going to help people see through the binoculars and widen that binocular so they can see like the Rain Man in a new way. That that
Mm.
that now we can see that there's so much more than the limited focus in which our childhood had us looking through.
Yeah.
And so not only did you want your own set of binoculars to widen and grow, and you want it to reach to your best version of yourself, but it's your life's purpose and passion to help others through coaching and training.
Oh God, that is so true. So
You
true.
literally are well suited and perfectly situated. And it's clear to me why it's so passionate for you. So your early memory reveals a core problem that you face and continue to face. And
Lack of safety.
lack of safety. That's
Ah.
always going to be your trigger. When you don't feel safe, that's your trigger. That's when you
Mm.
feel most vulnerable. When you don't feel safe is when you feel most vulnerable. And that goes into your career, because when you find the perfect career that meets your purpose and passion, you get to help other people resolve those core wounds.
Hmm.
So the more people can be themselves authentically,
Yeah.
the less invisible they have to be, and the more safe they are in the world.
Mm. Wow. That's an amazing exercise.
Yeah, I was trained on it in grad school to help people find careers. And you just perfectly demonstrated why it's such a great It's from, we'll put it in the show notes, but it's from Mark Savickas, and it's called The Career Construction Interview. And when I was in grad school at Northern Illinois University, he actually came to campus and demonstrated that in front of our program. And it's really powerful.
It is
So,
very powerful.
so again, the early memories are the core wound, and the best career will resolve the core wound that you had in your childhood, because it's like a salve. It's like the healing ointment that helps you process your grief and help others in turn your pain into purpose.
Well, you know, I've been fascinated with grief for a while. So I'll tell the listeners this little story. So after we went through our John Maxwell training and we went to Florida, and we had so many like light bulb moments, so many like things that just suddenly made sense to us, and just this drive to like move forward with it, do something with it, help people. I identified that I was really wanting to help women particularly, but did not know at that point like how I was going to help women. That kind of unfolded later. But I just lost my whole darn train of thought. Don't you hate menopause?
You said I have a little story. You said I have a little story when we were at the John Maxwell conference. We were talking about power of your story.
It's gone, Amanda. It's
Okay,
gone.
that's what happens. It'll come back.
Yes, it will come back. It might be 2:00 this morning, but it will come back.
Yeah. No, I love that. You know, when Terri and I talked about podcasting, I used to have a podcast too, and I really love the organic style where, you know what, we're just human beings, and sometimes it flies out of our brain and we don't know, but it'll come back. So I want to kind of like wrap this up by asking you, what was this experience like for you?
Not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy. I think that part of the whole thing, you know, like from early on to the point where I like literally was on the side of the road, because I was on a road trip listening to Daring Greatly by Brene Brown, and she's talking about this, and I'm like, oh my God, she's talking about me.
Yeah.
And I got to do something about this shit, because I can't go the rest of my life living like this. And I'm out on the side of the road, and I'm just crying, and I don't cry. Like, I'm not a crier, which is so funny
Unless you're
because
with me.
unless I'm with you, I'm not a crier. I think that, you know, a lot of people around my age group, and maybe just the people I grew up around, like, you know, we were the age where you said, oh, don't cry, I'll give you something to cry about, you know, like, so we learned like, you don't address your feelings, you don't label them, you know. And if I could say something about the millennial generation, because they get a lot of crap. My daughter is raising my grandson to identify those emotions. Oh, I see you're feeling sad. You know, and I think it's so wonderful, because growing up, I did not have access to anybody. Like, my mom never talked to me about what happened in the back of that car. My mom never talked to me about what I saw that day with her purple dress being ripped. And it's so different now, you know. And so I think that, you know, if there's something to take away from all of that, is you learn. So you build up this whole persona over your lifetime, when you don't have access to your emotions, when you don't know how to identify them easily, when you want to be invisible, so nobody sees you, they don't see your pain, they don't see, you're afraid for them to see who you are, because you're afraid they're going to judge you. They're not going to like you. Nobody's going to accept me. Everybody's going to reject me. Like, there's so much that goes along with that. So, you know, when you start to shed all of that stuff, going through this experience is like, it's like shining this huge spotlight on me. It's like walking out that door to walk down the aisle for my wedding. It's like, don't look at me. I first of all, I don't want anybody to ever feel sorry for me. Like, I never want anybody to look at me and think, poor her. No, not poor me. Guess what? I learned a lot from growing up like that. I learned I learned how to be a really great leader because I had so much compassion. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. I had so much compassion for people. And I feel like I really have this big, huge empathetic spirit inside of me. So when someone's hurting, when I would see someone at work that maybe wasn't accepted by other people, I had a lot of empathy and compassion for that person. I wanted to help them. I want to help.
Yeah.
And that all stems from all that pain. So please don't ever feel sorry for me. Even when I was raising twins when I was 19 and a half years old, and I had a almost 4-year-old, like I would be in the grocery store, and I would be, I had all the girls in front of me, and then I pull a cart of groceries behind me, and I would see a look of pity on someone's face, and it pissed me off. I was like, do not feel sorry for me. I can do this. I am a very confident person. So I feel like all of this has just made me a more determined person, determined to, I just talked about this on my podcast last week. She's talked about labels. She talked about when her husband died, it's like, you're a widow, you're this, you're that, you're a single woman, whatever, all these labels that people put on you. And, I'm not a victim. I'm not, and I never have thought of myself as a victim. This was painful, but probably necessary, because there's probably been still some part of me in all of these episodes and all of the stories. There's probably been part of me that still wants to be a little bit invisible, and I can't, if I really truly want to help people as much as I think I do and say I do and feel like I do. Sometimes you got to share your pain for someone else to, realize that you're just human. And
I couldn't agree more. And I want to kind of like wrap things up with that, Terri. So as a coach, like, I know you're passionate about training and coaching.
mm-hmm.
How has your past influenced your heart for coaching? Like, how has it shaped your beliefs about coaching?
Yeah, a lot of it stems from seeing my mom not ever live the life she wanted to live. And I think there is such a big world out there. I think there is room for so many types of people with their talents and their passions and their purpose. And it's frustrating when people think they have to have this big, like Gandhi or Mother Teresa type purpose. And that's not everybody's purpose. There's so much room for everybody's purpose in this world. And I want women to understand that don't be ashamed if your purpose seems really small. Mm-hmm. If your purpose seems really small, don't be ashamed of it. Don't hide it. Don't run from it. Don't shy away from it. Don't feel like people are going to laugh at you or ridicule you.
You mean don't get invisible?
Don't get invisible. Shine it for all the world to see. There's a story about a woman who, her purpose was to work in a coffee shop and serve customers and help other.
I remember you had a vision of that at one time in your life. Like, yeah. You love that environment.
Yeah. So,
like, own it and embrace it.
Own it.
And shine your light and come out of the dark, and don't keep yourself small. Don't keep yourself small, and don't keep yourself invisible.
Right. And don't try to do it alone.
Yeah. And we're
not meant to do this alone, this life. No. We're not meant to.
We didn't even evolve to do things alone. No. And that's why this group of women, I think, is so fantastic that you're building. Is people are so much more their nervous systems are so much more intact. Our minds and our hearts and our souls, mind, body, spirit, is so much more regulated when we can do this in the company of like-minded people that want to reach the best version of themselves as well.
Absolutely.
So I just want to say to you, my friend, I'm so happy that you went on that really difficult tour with me today. And I hope it's something that resonates with people that are listening. You can take yourself through those questions too. And kind of just look and see like how can my career actually serve me in putting salve on sort of the preoccupation that I had as a child, and finding purpose for myself and other people in the world as well.
Yeah. And so I think, you've already kind of said it in a way, but I'm going to say it in a more succinct way, is like, don't be afraid to come over to the private Facebook community and start not being invisible. Come on there and let's just, let's build this community where we can support each other and be there for one another and share stories and celebrate each other. I would love to hang out with everybody there. So I'll be there.
Absolutely. I'm cheersing you from Quality Inn,
Cheers,
Illinois, with my champagne cup. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time. And thank you so much for being here with us today. Remember to take good care of you. Well, that's a wrap for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad to be here with you.
And just remember, we're here to serve. Reach out, connect with us on social media platforms, and dig in deeper.
Yes, all those links will be in the podcast show notes. So join us. We can't wait to continue the conversation with you over there. Until next time, everybody, take care.